Big news! Blizzard announced August 14th, 2018 will be Battle for Azeroth's launch date. Dark Iron Dwarves and Mag'har Orcs will be the first two new allied races. We'll unlock both allied races by playing through the war campaign at release. Now, I'm a little bit surprised here. I thought we'd see Zandalari Trolls before the Mag'har Orcs, but they'll come later along with the kul'tiras. Fingers crossed for Vulpera in a future patch. Now, judging from the official forums as well as the MMO forums, the idea of Vulpera creates a lot of polarity among the community. Some players love it, some players hate it. I'm a hardcore Vulpera fan here. I love, and I repeat, I absolutely love the idea of playing Rocket from Guardians of the Galaxy. In due time, we'll know more. Let me know your thoughts about playing Vulpera or any of the other allied races. Light Forged, High Mountain Tauren, Void Elves, Highborn. Let me know your favorite. Leave it in the comments. By the way, I do read the comments, and I do respond. I absolutely do respond. I feel if you could take a few seconds, watch one of my videos, I could take a few seconds, respond to your comments. There's going to be another round of Realm Connections. I believe the last one happened at the start of Legion, and at the time I remember people in chat, people on the forums, people in guild, a lot of players thought, wow, this is amazing. There are a ton of new players. The world really seems more populated. No, unfortunately, Blizzard simply consolidated more realms. Like everyone else, and make no mistake here, I'd love to see more players in WoW, and I'm not saying Legion didn't bring in new players or bring back former players. What I'm saying is the growth wasn't as huge as people thought. Expect more of the same with BFA. The pre-patch expansion will tell the backstory of the burning of Teldrassil with animated pieces, which is awesome. Can't wait to see him. Also, there will be story-oriented quests as well as playable skirmishes with elites. Definitely a good example of what Blizzard does better than any other MMO. Tell a story. They're the best at it. They're not good at it, honestly, but they have a very, very difficult medium to tell a story, which is an MMO, and they do it better than any other MMO. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if there's an MMO that tells a better story than World of Warcraft or Blizzard. Blizzard hopes and expects the burning of Teldrassil to spawn quite a bit of debate, which means the who's involved here and why they're involved, to what capacity they're involved with the event. This is going to keep things very, very vague, which I think is a good move here, because it sets up an intriguing plot point for future X-Packs or future patches going forward. Warlords had garrisons, Legion had Order Hall, and Azeroth will have a war campaign. All these different campaigns with each X-Pack. Now, I have to be truthful here. I absolutely loathe the sight of mission tables in Legion. But from the angle of progressing the story and your character, they work much better than they did in WoD. And in the fact they're a great source for gold in other game currencies. I must admit, I'm happy they're returning into the game. These Order Hall campaigns, or these garrison campaigns, or war campaigns, whatever it is you want to call them. I'm happy to see them. They give me gold, they give me currency. Love it. Very, very happy to see it. And I can't believe I'm saying that, because I didn't particularly like them after about a month in Warlords of Draenei, all the fun, and I wasn't happy to see them in the Legion beta. Like them now, though. Blizzard stated they're very close to a beta, so I'd expect from the release of, or upload of, this particular video, we'll see a beta within a week or two. Be on the look for invites and places giving beta keys away. Of course, don't tune into this channel, because there's a strong possibility I will not get into the beta, because Blizzard absolutely, completely hates me. Why? Because I tell them the truth about their game. In hindsight, Blizzard stated patch 7.1 came out a little bit too soon, and they believe Legion content worked out well. And I have to admit, and 100% have to agree, keep in mind, my judgment is based on quantity of the content, not the quality of the content. Blizzard made a very, very clear and evident promise that they wanted to deliver more patches than they did, in Warlords of Draenei all the fun. All they basically had to do is deliver 2 patches to outdo Warlords. But the fact is, they made a commitment, and they followed through with it, and they delivered, and I'm very happy about that. Although, other than the gated content in the Broken Isles, I personally liked all the content in the patches that they delivered. As far as patches go, Blizzard clearly and unquestionably, like I said, they made great strides in Legion to improve their patch delivery as far as quality, as far as quantity, both. Big thumbs up for that, and optimism for more of the same in Battle for Azeroth. There are 6 factions for the new continents, 3 for each continent. Zandalari Trolls and kul'tiras are most definitely 2 of those factions. Now, if we play a little bit of Monopoly here, roll the dice, we can see where we land and probably figure out the potential allied races that will be coming in future patches. I'm not in the alpha. Doubt I'll get into the beta, so I'm sorry, I really can't be more definitive here. Believe me, I really am. I wish I could be, but I just can't. But if you guys are watching somebody who's doing alpha videos or beta videos, and you can kind of see the possibilities here, Volpura is most definitely one of them. Blizzard isn't 100% Blizzard. Let me try English here. Blizzard isn't 100% certain why players are hesitant to engage in PvP combat. I can't believe they threw out a statement like that. I think that deserves its own video, so be on the look on my channel for me to make a comment about that statement, because it's pretty absurd, but also honest, so I'm going to delve into that more. But I'd imagine a big reason why is because players are more focused on experiencing the new content from Battle for Azeroth, and they're not too excited about engaging in world PvP. They prefer the content, do the quest, take in the view, that sort of thing. It's all new. That's their primary focus. That's what they really want to do. They're not too excited about the world PvP. Not to say that they're not going to be, but right now, this shiny new thing has a lot more attention, a lot more, what's the word, immediacy than engaging in world PvP. Or it's possible that they're hesitant to engage in world PvP because of the changes with their class, not as comfortable yet. That's a strong possibility too. And I can't dismiss the possibility here that the players in the alpha right now are raiding-oriented players, PvE-oriented players. Blizzard also mentioned players may feel some stress or pressure to engage in world PvP. And this is where I got to be very straightforward and honest. If that is true, there is no good spin on that. And that doesn't bode well for this new world PvP feature going forward. It's possible that people who trumpeted for world PvP are simply the vocal minority. I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm saying it's a possibility. Once again, this is, and I really believe this is a very good indication of Blizzard listening to players. A lot of people will say, well, Blizzard never listens to us. No, I think they do listen to players. But they do an absolutely terrible job at qualifying and, more importantly, quantifying the feedback they receive. This is somewhat something that we've seen occur many times in the past, and I sincerely hope that it's not occurring here again. Leveling with World War Mode, or World PvP engaged. Once you enable this feature, it grants more experience and more rewards. The intent here, offset the lost time due to PvP engagements. Players with War Mode enabled will earn conquest points. Kind of interesting how those popped up and came back. And as they earn conquest points, it'll fill up a bar, and then they'll earn gear. Every week you can earn another piece of gear, so it appears 1 piece of gear per week. Once you complete a set, you can build a more powerful set. I guess it's more rinse and repeat, and you can build a more powerful set. Here's what we can infer here. You can gain PvP gear at the very least once you start doing some world PvP. Get 1 extra piece of gear per week through War Mode, aka World PvP, which really isn't bad. It's giving people more options, and I kind of like that. This does potentially give World PvP some meaning, and more importantly, some legs, which is something that, if the rewards are there, And these really translate into something good. I think we're going to see more and more people engaging in world PvP, and hopefully that will be the case. Now, I'm still a little bit concerned here with the massive faction imbalance and the overall lack of interest in war mode in the alpha. It's possible the addition of the new allied races could fix or tilt the faction balance. We saw this occur, so this isn't a crazy thought, but we saw this occur with the addition of Worgen and Kata. A lot of Horde players thought the Worgen were a bit ruthless and a bit rough, and they liked the Worgen, and they switched to Alliance or started playing some Alliance. As of the moment, Void Elves are generating a lot of hype and excitement. More Alliance players is a fair and reasonable possibility here. I really do like the Void Elves. They're one of my favorite new additions. And if you add in the fact they're doing another round of realm connections, because war mode this time around, they'll have more flexibility and more options with regard to what realms they connect. That means PvE realms where Alliance populations tend to be higher, and PvP realms where it's the opposite can now be combined. Maybe things work out for the better. If you are a gladiator level player, good news for you. There is still a random loot situation or system that rewards gear competitive with raid gear. Keywords here, random loot. Translation, more RNG. If and when you toggle into war mode, you will be placed on a shard with other players who've toggled into, you guessed it, war mode. Group Finder will list groups with players that have the same war mode state as you. All this sounds incredibly awesome, with two very small exceptions I got to point out here. And these are both personal. You may agree or disagree. 1. More RNG. In any given capacity, in any part of the game, WoW needs more on RNG in-game, like a fucking fish needs a bicycle. If I want the casino experience, I'll drive down to AC, get comp for a steak dinner, and play poker or blackjack. That's my personal opinion. What's your opinion about more RNG in World of Warcraft? And second, throughout Legion, the Horde clearly proved to be significantly more organized and dedicated than the Alliance and BGs. More of the same doesn't necessarily excite me as an Alliance player, but I do admit that it's not exactly fair or accurate for me to make that conclusion that, once again, the Horde are going to be organized, massive pre-mades, but 10 to 12 minute queues, and Alliance are going to queue for losses. It's not a fair or accurate conclusion at this point. I'm just voicing a possibility. Warfronts. BFA will offer a 20-player Warfront in Arathi Highlands. Definitive evidence here. They're making good use of the world and older assets. If your faction controls a Warfront, access to world quests, world bosses will be gained. In some respects, this is reminiscent of Wintergrasp and Tol Barad. Factions will turn in resources, unlock the Warfront, play through the content, win the battle, then hold it for 5 to 7 days, while the other faction turns in resources to fight to control it. Resources would include Azeroth, gold, trade skill, materials, etc., etc. You will pretty much always win a Warfront. So that mitigates the risk of one faction holding the Warfront for a very long period of time, like we've seen with Wintergrasp or Tol Barad, or even good old, dare I say it, Hashiran. They will be quite a bit of turnover and equal opportunity for everyone, both good things. More Warfronts will be revealed as the X-Pack progresses, different places, different strats. In other words, more Warfront content in future patches. Now, I can see Warfronts either being a huge hit or a huge miss, and really not much in between. This appears to be more of a group PvE endeavor than a PvP one. The level of player participation is going to highly depend on three things. One, the uniqueness of the experience. In other words, the playthrough content. Is the content dynamic? In other words, does it change a little bit each time you do it, or is it simply rinse and repeat each time? We don't know yet. Two, the rewards. Don't know much about the rewards here, or whether or not the content is fun yet, and my biggest concern is this. Every time Blizzard attempts to do something like this, it pretty much failed, and failed miserably. And it's not because the content sucked. It's largely because the game engine cannot properly support the content. WoW's game engine, keep in mind, is about 14 to 15 years old now. This is why we don't see breakaway environments in WoW, armor dives, or more specifically, large-scale player versus player 40v50 siege tactic contents. Warfronts really emit a very strong Asheran vibe for me, and that concerns me. Is it a concern based on something factual? No, it's just a gut feeling. The key word here, like I said, is feel. I could be 100% wrong here, plus I'm making judgment based on feelings and not necessarily facts or current experience, more so on past experience. We don't know much about Warfronts. All I'm doing is judging from the past, and I certainly do hope I'm wrong. I think island expeditions are the most interesting and unique part of Battle for Azeroth. The overall success of Battle for Azeroth may hinge right here with island expeditions. You'll queue for normal, heroic, mythic, PvP difficulties, either alone or with a pre-made group. Island expeditions are 3-player encounters where you coordinate with your group and you overcome the opposing faction, collect 6,000 Azerite before they do. Pretty much simple. It's a resource race, as most PvP endeavors are. Seems very reminiscent of scenarios from MoP, except the NPCs are going to possess a graduate level, is the best way I could put it, a graduate level AI, and there is a PvP mode. The gameplay here offers something dynamic and unpredictable. At least that's something that Blizzard has promised or said. For example, the NPCs could jump or they could line of sight you. This is a new feature which I absolutely adore and look forward to, and it could extend into different aspects of the game, Blizzard said. They just want to start things off small before they implement it into the whole of World of Warcraft, much like they did with zone scaling in the Legion. They want to isolate it to a small part so they can work out the bugs, take in feedback, and then expand it once they perfect it a little bit better. Now, this is the key. Perfect the technology and take in constructive feedback before they extend into other parts of the game. This is something Blizzard has always done. They've always taken a small thing when they have a new technology or they want to implement a different technology into the game, and they just kind of sample size it and then they expand it, and it's a very smart approach. This is where the core of my excitement lies for BFA. Let me know your thoughts. You excited about island expeditions? If they deliver and offer a cluster of different islands, which I pretty much believe they will, this could very well be something to be very excited about, something with a bit of substance. Before I disappear, one huge and rather intangible thing I absolutely have to mention about BFA. Everything spins and revolves around faction conflict, aka war. This is a recurring theme, and it could spawn a renewed interest in PvP. The spirit of war is going to be in the air, and no matter what you do, you can't help it but breathe it in. It's in the air, you're going to breathe it in. It's going to be around you so much that you're going to smell it, you're going to taste it, you're going to feel it, and maybe you're going to want a PvP. This is how you gain and spread influence throughout a game. You consistently weave the same aspect into every feature of the game, in this case, the war. This is BFA's strongest point. Plus, from a lore standpoint, I think we're going to see some very special and revealing character arcs for both Anduin and Sylvanas. Horde and Alliance going to be very satisfied with the story. For me personally, it's 100% about the PvP. All roads lead or fork into PvP one way or another. Expecting balance in PvP is unreasonable at this point. Blizzard's track record is an atrocity with regard to balance. How difficult it is to do. Balance is not easy. It's a difficult task, especially when you're adding in these new allied races with their racial. So you got to give Blizzard a pass on that. It's going to be more difficult than it was, say, back in Lich King or Burning Crusade, and they didn't even get it right then. But here's the thing. I think that the biggest problem that Blizzard has with balancing the game is feedback from players. They do not receive a lot of feedback from PvPers in the alpha or the beta. For example, in the Legion beta, the BGQs exceeded well over an hour. that clearly doesn't indicate there's a lot of interest there. Then again, the past is not always indicative of the future or the present. We can expect fairness out of PvP, equality of opportunity for all. If they deliver that and offer compelling and interesting gameplay, BFA will be a huge success from a PvP standpoint. It comes down to one question, people. It's just one question. Is it fun? It's what it comes down to. And fun is a subjective thing. It's different for everybody. Guy like me finds going to a baseball game fun. Maybe some woman enjoys the idea of going to a craft show on a Sunday fun. Everybody's got a different idea what fun is. This is Luxeley saying, whatever it is by you guys, whether it's morning, afternoon, or night, make it epic.